Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgy kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. If you're a returning viewer, hit that like and subscribe button. Definitely subscribe. We're doing a big push to hit 2,000 by the end of this year, and we really need your help to do that. Big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. And if you need dice or dice accessories, anything for your ttrpgs, check out our good friends at Dice Legion. The link is in the description, and use the promo code SINISTER. All that out of the way, we're going to jump into this week's video. We're talking about the Firbolg. The Firbolgs first come to us from Volo's Guide to Monsters. They are part of the lineage of giants. They are giants that were on the smaller version of them. They went from all the taller sizes and they diminished in the hierarchy. They are like the common people to a god of their people. They kind of fit on that lower end, but they are in fact giants. They're giants that made their ways to the forest and got enveloped in nature and really developed this great druidic kind of heritage to them. Originally, they didn't start out that way. They were like big, brawny, red-haired, pale-skinned giants. They were really not as vile as some of the other giants are, but through their history have grown, and once they got into the forest and into the nature, developed this great kind of kindness and goodness to them and really changed their ways from most giants. Between the reprint of them in Monsters of the Multiverse and the actual Volo's Guide, there isn't really that much of a difference, except some of the advancements they've made where you can choose your ability scores, and that if you have any kind of innate spellcasting, you can kind of pick what spellcasting ability you use for them. Outside of that, it's pretty much straightforward. You are humanoid, you are considered medium, though you are probably between 7 to 8 feet plus in height. You do not have dark vision. And that is something very important, because a lot of people tend to focus on whether or not a species is good or valued because you have that, but there's always a million ways to get around that. Powerful build. You count as one size larger when determining your carrying capacity and the weight you can push, drag, or lift. Now, this is only really important for those really survival-oriented campaigns where everything matters, like rations and how much you can carry, what you can carry, climbing, things like that. Powerful build does help you if you end up being something like a barbarian or something, and you want to throw someone somewhere, push them, or drag them. It makes a big difference because having the availability to do those things really helps you out in those kind of very specific scenarios. But a lot of the times, the encumbrance rules are usually not strictly followed. A lot of DMs just kind of let you carry whatever. But if you do factor that in, it is a very big game changer in how the economics of combat and things work, because it affects your move speed. Sometimes it can get really bad for you, and you end up in a situation where you're in a bad spot and you're surrounded and you can't escape even if you wanted to. Speech of beast and leaf. You have the ability to communicate in a limited manner with beasts, plants, and vegetation. They can understand the meaning of your words, though you have no special ability to understand them in return. You have advantage on all charisma checks you make to influence them. This is a very niche ability. It's something that you very rarely have an opportunity to use against plants. There are only a handful of plants that would be aggressive to you, and 9 times out of 10 they'll attack on sight. The best use of this would have to be from Caduceus Clay in Critical Role Season 2. He used this often whenever they were in an area where they had to traverse a jungle. He always spoke to the beasts and to the plants and whispered them in order to make their journey a little bit more easier on the party. It's a smart use of the ability. You don't ever really know if it works because there's no reciprocal understanding, but you don't know the circumstances that might have been happening behind the scenes, or that could have happened had that ability not been used. So it's definitely something to use if you're ever in a situation. A lot of the times the Firbolg kind of lean towards druidism, so this is something that would probably be along those lines of thinking. Hidden Step. As a bonus action, you can magically turn invisible until the start of your next turn, or until you attack, make a damage roll, or force someone to make a saving throw. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. This is a kind of a tricky ability because, yes, you can go invisible for a turn, and you do get a benefit of using it a couple of times per day via the Monsters as a Multiverse version, where in Volo you can only use it once per short or long rest. The tricky thing about this ability is that if you make a damage roll or force someone to make a saving throw. If you are a spellcaster and you have concentration on a spell, say it makes an AoE effect on an area like spike growth, and it takes someone to get pushed into it to take damage, that would break hidden step. Things like that will do that. So you kind of got to be a little smart about how you want to do this. It's a great way to mitigate your appearance to the enemy and making you a little bit slippery of a combatant, because if nothing is right in front of you, then you have a great way to disappear and move away and get yourself into a safe spot and really confuse where the enemy is. The tricky thing is how your DMs rule opportunity attacks, because as rules as written, you need to be able to see the enemy leave your area. So if you're invisible, you're not being seen leaving the area, so I would rule it that you can't get hit with an opportunity attack as you're invisible. Some DMs kind of go a little bit as it's an attack at disadvantage, but however you play your games, make sure to get that straightened out before you use this ability. Firbolg Magic. You can cast the Detect Magic and Disguise Self spells with this trait. When you use this version of Disguise Self, you can seem up to 3 feet shorter or taller. Once you cast either of these spells with this trait, you can't cast that spell again until you finish a long rest. You can also cast these spells using any spell slots you have. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability for these spells when you cast them with this trait. Choose when you select this race. This is great because it gives you a free spell that you could cast. The caveat of you picking one of these spells is really interesting. It kind of gives you a smaller version of what the innate spellcasting would be for like tieflings or yuan-ti or anyone else that has magic like that that's inherent to their species. This gives you a interesting way to cast Disguise Self. The only reason you would want to seem 3 feet taller is if you're 12 feet tall and you are essentially a giant, you would then appear more favorable to other giants. You would be taller and bigger, and they would show that as a sense of stature for your species. And the bigger you are as a giant, the more important you are, kind of the more strength you have. And that really influences them. So if you ever needed to role play with giants, this would be a great way to make yourself taller. In most situations, Disguise Self doesn't last an extremely long period of time. But if you need to walk through a town where you're trying to stay hidden, that's a great way to make yourself more reasonable. You would be about 5 feet, whatever inches, and you would look average size for whatever it is you were trying to do. Picking the Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma for this really gives you the availability to mix the Firbolg very well with whatever class you're trying to use and add this onto it, especially in situations where you have lower spell slots than you would like half-casters or warlocks. A few extra spells might make you feel more comfortable in that role. Our final thoughts. The Firbolg was greatly portrayed by Caduceus Clay as a character by Tashas and Jaffe in Critical Role Season 2. Probably one of the only times you'll ever see a Firbolg in a game. Very rarely do you see them often. They are a very interesting group. They don't look like Caduceus Clay. It's kind of interesting how they designed that character, but Firbolgs are again giants. They're just giants that have been around the Fae. So their skin being like some sort of jungle-like color, greens and like faded blues, browns, things like that, and having those giant features would really, really work well with them. They don't kind of look like that strange vision that Caduceus is, but outside of that, he played the character extremely well. They are really gifted towards being druids and rangers. They're not super aggressive. They would rather just usher people away from their homes using magics to deter them and get them confused and lost than to have them just kind of combative and aggressive. That being said, you're very easily able to do so. A lot of the times that giant blood is still pumping through those veins, so there can be a severe level of fire giant aggression burning through you, and there can be that storm giant superiority complex. You know, you could have those inherent to your character just by being part of a giant and using that and really forcing yourself into this great kind of an area where you need to leave your home and be who you are and find your rightful place, because that's really the thing about Firbolgs. They're so grouped together and in love with their own sense of duty to where they are, to the force that they protect, that you need a reason to be expelled from that. And being a good person normally through the lore is kind of hard to do so. So either you get sent out to save the world, or you get kicked out for being wrong. That is a great setup, and it's cool to have that kind of reason to tie giants into the world. If you don't play Storm King's Thunder, giants are massive problems. A lot of the times you think only about dragons, and I get it, it's Dungeons and Dragons, but giants are dangerous. They are horribly tyrannical beings. They love to throw their authority around, and they almost destroyed the world when they fought giant dragons for control of the land of Toril. So there's a long, wonderful, beautiful tapestry of history with Firbolgs because they tie into giants, and giants are just very cool as creatures on their own. Definitely look into that in order to build your character and really kind of pull a lot of what they are and help guide you into making whatever you want. That being said, we're going to bring this video to a close. We encourage you to play Firbolgs. If you have any great experiences with Firbolgs, definitely tell us about it. Leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you're a returning viewer, definitely hit that subscribe button. It means the life to us. It's the whole world. We're trying to hit that goal. It's really important. Big thank you to our Patreon supporters, and a huge thank you to our big friends at Dice Legion. Use that promo code Sinister, get 10% off all your purchases. The links to the Patreon and Dice Legion are in the description. And thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.